Good morning, everybody. I'm going to call the regular open meeting of the United Woods Mutual Board of Directors of California Nonprofit Mutual Benefit Corporation. It's Tuesday, June 8th, 2021 at 9:30 a.m. We are doing a virtual meeting as usual. For some time we will be. So we do have a quorum. We are missing a few people.
I'm sorry.
We will go ahead and acknowledge that we are on television, and we appreciate their help in any way they can to make this good.
Wait, I can't.
Elsie, what's the problem? Okay. Moving onward, there are some corrections to the agenda, and we'll call on Manuel first.
Yeah, I can't hear them.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Sue, on page 204.
Can we make it smaller view?
Yes.
Elsie, please mute your... Okay, go ahead, Manuel.
Okay, on page 204, item 11A, that should be April 2021, not May.
Okay.
You got that?
Got that.
Okay, then item 11C, I don't think that description is correct, and I'll explain why after I give you the change. I think I should entertain a motion to approve a revised resolution to approve the temporary borrowing from the reserve fund. And I say that is because if this is again in the future, then it has to be presented again, a new resolution has to be drawn, and it's not a policy. Policy is something that's happening all the time, okay? So that should be entertain a motion to approve a revised resolution to approve the temporary borrowing from the reserve, okay?
Okay, and we should remove the 28-day because the lawyer, Jeff Beaumont, says it does not require 28-day.
Okay, I don't understand why not, but anyway, you know, let me go on. Then on page, agenda item 4A, in the minutes, page 11 of 14, the same change should be made under that resolution where it says staff recommends the board approve the finance committee's endorsement to approve temporary borrowing of monies rather than to adopt a policy. So approve. And then in the next paragraph, it should also say Director Armendariz made a motion to approve temporary borrowing of monies from reserve fund. Okay. Then I only have one other change, and that's item 12C, page 7 of 14. I'll let you get there. Tell me when you get there, Sue.
There.
Okay. Article 7, where they changed one of the shells. They changed the second one rather than the first one. And the correction should read, rents under any sublease, and that shall is being, may be assigned, okay? Rents under any sublease may be assigned. And then the second one, the sublease, they changed it to may from shall. That should remain shall. The sublease shall be delivered to the corporation. Do you see that?
Yeah. Okay.
That's
wrong. That's wrong, Manny. That's wrong. It's got to say may, because shall.
I know it does. I know it, Elsie. I know it does. It's in the wrong place. Read the document.
Oh, I'm sorry, Manny. I'm trying to get some stuff set up. Thanks. Okay, as long as you know.
Do you follow me, Sue?
Yeah, I follow you. Let's go ahead and make that change.
I don't know what Elsie's problem is. Okay. That is.
Come on, Manny.
Yeah. You interrupted me, and I was right.
Okay.
Well, I'm sorry. Okay, never.
Okay.
That's it. Thank you.
That's it. Thank you. All right. Can you get Juanita in because she's going to give a report today? And Andre, go ahead.
the question is that we need to GIF established Information Technology Advisory Committee, and you and I are assigned to it, and it's not hasn't been approved yet. So we need to add that to 10E, approve Information Technology Advisory Committee, you and I.
Well, until they have their first meeting and they vote to have this committee, they have not voted as yet to have the committee. At that point, I will bring the committee changes to the board.
I thought they've already approved it during the last GIF meeting.
Oh, in the last GRF meeting? Okay.
Yep.
They did.
All right, then go ahead. We need to take a vote whether we want to add that. It needs to be a 2/3 vote. Is there anybody against adding that as, what number did you put it as,
10E.
Andre?
10E.
10E, okay. Is there anybody against adding that to 10E? All right, it's unanimous, so it is added. Thank you. Good
Thank you.
call. All right, anything else, anybody on the agenda? All right. Does everybody approve of the agenda as changed? Is there anybody that has any problem with it? Okay, thank you. Okay, we're going on to the meeting minutes. Approval of the meeting minutes. Does anybody have any changes to the meeting minutes?
Sue, I gave you mine.
Yeah, we've got Manny's. Anybody else have any changes? Okay, we approve the meeting minutes as they are been changed. And we're on to the report of the chair. I'd like to take a little time to talk about the structure of board meetings. From questions I've been asked, questions that have been asked of me, I realize many of you are not aware of the board meeting protocols. And this is for residents. 2 weeks before the official board meeting, United has an agenda prep meeting in which we discuss what should be put on the agenda. This is a time where directors may ask questions of what the various agenda items will entail, and clarifications should be added, the write-up of items to improve the understandability. Then 4 days before the meeting, each director is hand-delivered a packet which contains all the resolution write-ups and the minutes of the last meeting and the full agenda. During the official board meeting, the job of describing each resolution is given to the chair of the area where the resolution originated, and it is hoped that they will give the residents a clear picture of what is contained in the resolution. If it affects the residents, it is then put on a 28-day review so the residents can have time to read it and give feedback to the board. One important point I need to bring up is that on the agenda item, a director may speak for at most 3 minutes. When we are physically in the boardroom, there was a handy timer on the screen in front of us, but using Zoom, there's no visible timer. So the time is tracked by the president or the person administering the meeting. When the director's time is up, they are to yield the floor to the next person. Unfortunately, some directors do not obey this rule. When Anthony Liberatore was on the board, he acted as our parliamentarian and would take care of the problem. Unfortunately, he left the board many months ago when he and his wife contracted COVID. Now it's up to the person to both run the meeting, enforce the rules. Zoom has a feature whereby you can mute a person, mic, and currently is used, but some of our directors turn their mics back on and continues to disrupt the meeting, which makes it difficult to continue the meeting in an orderly fashion. Board meetings are an all-day affair, with morning devoted to the open session and the afternoon to close. There's a small lunch break taken. Therefore, it's very important that the meeting be run in an orderly fashion to cover all the material that needs to be covered. That's why Robert's rules are fine. One reason I chose this topic is once again to give credit to our former board member, Anthony Liberatore, who we have recently learned of the loss of his partner. The board sends its condolence for the loss of his wife, and our hearts and prayers go out to his family. Thank you. So we have open forum. I understand, Elise, we have one letter. Would you kindly read it?
May I comment on the chairs, report chairs, because I have a question on that.
Okay, go ahead.
We have a 3-minute limit to the board members and to the resident asking questions. Can we also have a 3-minute limit on staff answering the question, any questions? Because I think that's really the one that takes way too much time. If we can, get a quick question on 3 minutes, I hope that the staff can present the answer in 3 minutes. They went to the side issues too often.
Okay, we will take that into consideration, and we will ask staff to please limit their answers to 3 minutes. Thank you. Okay, let's move on. Elise, go ahead.
Good morning, Madam President, honored board members. We have one written comment from member John Beckett at 364Q Avenida Castilla. He writes, 1 month ago, the board announced that it would authorize management to borrow $6 million from United's reserve fund. The resolution on today's agenda authorizes only $1.3 million. Thanks to the joint efforts of the board and the Financial Services Department, a debt of nearly $5 million has been avoided. It wasn't easy to manage United's finances in 2021. First, the cost of insurance went through the roof, and then United didn't have enough cash to pay the property taxes. I am grateful to President Sue Margolis for finding the best available solutions to these difficult problems. I am grateful to First Vice President Manuel Armendariz for bringing United into compliance with the Davis-Sterling Act. And I am grateful to all the directors who voted to protect the money in United's reserve fund. And that concludes his comment.
Thank you. Are there any phone calls or anything? I don't think a response is needed to that, and it was nice to have it. Okay.
May I have an open forum comment also?
No, you can do it in director's comments. You are not a resident at this point in time. You are a director, and it can come at director's comments. Thank you.
Something related to resident issues.
I understand, but that comes at director's comments. You're not a resident in this forum. Thank you. Okay, Cynthia, you're up.
Good morning, Madam Chair and honorable board members. I hope everybody can hear me.
We can.
That's good to know, at least. Okay, I'm here to present the monthly meeting from BMS to United Board. And I believe we have some slides, if Grant can pop the first one up. Maybe.
Grant?
Good morning. Good to know we're still all together. Okay, well, today is June 8th, 2021. And today I'm going to provide a little bit of different information, I think, than what you've had before, but let's hope you enjoy it. Next slide, please, Grant. So everybody always has questions about customer service and what's happening in that department. So we put together a little bit of information that might give you some answers as to how many calls are being answered and what percentage are being completed. So if you'll look, we've broken it down into different departments. And in all, we've had quite a few calls, total of 182,000 calls from January until May. The one that stands out to me the most is gate clearance. If you'll notice, there are 83,000 calls year to date for gate clearance. We do have a system in Dwelling Live, but we believe it might be another issue to look at to see if we can reduce that number down, maybe get people using online instead of making all these phone calls, which are tying up the lines in customer service. But overall, Resident Services has done a fantastic job. If you'll notice, year to date, 182,000 of those taken care of, 149. That is 82%. So yes, there is room for improvement, But again, I think a lot of it can happen if we can get some of these areas a little less phone call, a little more technology. Okay, next slide, please. So one thing I wanted to go over, we had a lovely meeting about the updates with the security and all the new things that are being implemented. So I thought it might be important to let everybody know a few things that are going on. Grant, can you go back? This is slide 4. Can you go back to 3? Thank you. So right now they've put in some new technology that is helping quite a bit communication. First off, they're transitioning into a digital radio system from what they were using before, and it's going to be a dual system. They're going to have analog and digital. That offers a little bit better technology for privacy, and they can also communicate with all the other departments that are necessary. So using that gives them additional capabilities. These radios will give them a better identifier so they can find out what's happening and know what they need to focus in on. And it also increases the safety of our security department out in the field. Next slide, please. There we go. That's the 4th. Okay, also, as we are implementing, some of the vehicles are getting a little older and need to maybe be retired or redirected. So in 2021, we have added new Ford Edges because they have new technology.
Do you hear it?
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay, that wasn't me, I swear. So we have now added 3 Ford Edges that help them patrol better and safer. We have this new technology that is in the department, which is in its own way making significant changes. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Cynthia. Okay, Jeff, you and Siobhan are up.
Good morning, everybody.
You missed 7A.
7A. Oh, no, there was, I'm sorry, you're correct. That is Diane. You need to do 7A.
I have a question about VMS report. Can I ask a question?
Let's do 7A and then we'll come back to that, Andre. Thank you.
I think it's me.
It is Elsie.
Oh, it's Elsie. I'm sorry. Elsie, go ahead. I keep changing this. It says Elsie.
Thank you, Madam Chair. 2 residents commented in the public forum last month. The following are responses to those comments. Helen Edelstein at 712C, item, suggest the placement of a recycling container in each laundry room, as many of the products utilized in the laundry rooms are contained in plastic, paper, or cardboard. Response, the estimated cost per recycle bin is approximately $30 each. United has 175 standalone laundry rooms. The total upfront cost would be $5,250, which is not included in the budget. Operationally, emptying 2 containers would increase labor time and material costs for plastic bags. So it doesn't look like we're going to be able to do anything about that this year. But thank you so much. I think it's a great idea, but there are financial problems with it. John Beckett from 364Q, he raised concerns about temporary borrowing from the reserve fund by the operating fund. Here's the response. The following letter will appear in the Thursday, June 3rd, or I guess it did appear in the Thursday, June 3rd, 2001 edition of the Globe, and addresses concerns raised by Mr. Beckett at the May 11th, 2021 board meeting. And this is the letter. United Mutual Property Taxes and Reserve Borrowing, understanding the facts behind a simple matter of timing. Misinformation and rumors involving finances can provoke strong emotions when simply understanding the facts can save a great deal of misdirected energy. Recent opinion letters in the press have misstated and misrepresented the process of how United Mutual's property taxes are paid. Let's set the record straight with facts. Members of United pay their property taxes to the mutual, which in turn issues payment to the property tax assessor. Property taxes are due in April and December. The tax assessor's fiscal year is July to June, and United Mutual's fiscal year is January to December. This results in timing and cash flow issues for United. Starting every January, 1/12 of the members' annual property taxes are collected through monthly assessments. This means that when 6 months worth of taxes are due in April, only 4 months worth of taxes have been collected. To simplify, let's assume that United member Jane Doe has a total annual property tax liability of $2,400. The taxes paid in April and December. Her monthly assessment includes $200 towards property tax. When the first installment is due in April, the mutual has collected only $800 or $400 short of what is due for Ms. Doe's property taxes. Davis Sterling Code Section 5115 allows the mutual to borrow from its reserves as long as the funds are returned to reserves within 1 year. This is what United does to cover the 2-month tax deficit. Once monthly assessments are collected to cover this 2-month property tax deficit, the money is returned to the reserve fund. Residents may refer to Civil Code Section 5515, which states the board may authorize the temporary transfer of money from a reserve fund to the association's general operating fund to meet short-term cash flow requirements, unquote. This is United's operating fund. All assessments and revenue belong to the mutual. None of it belongs to VMS. No VMS operating reserve fund exists. Further, all financial decisions are made by a mutual's board. Staff may provide the board with recommendations, but does not implement any decision without board direction. The United Board's recently proposed resolution ensures board approval is obtained prior to a temporary borrowing being made from the reserve fund to pay for near-term operating expenses. This resolution is under 28-day consideration and will be voted on in the July United regular open meeting. There is a simple way for all United members to get the story for themselves. Review United Finance Committee meetings recordings and view staff reports and meeting materials at lagunawoodsvillage.com. From residents in the main menu, click board meeting videos, scroll to archived events, click United Laguna Woods Mutual Finance Committee, and select the meeting you wish to watch. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It will not go on 28 days, so it will be voted today, and that is going to be the final vote. Okay, Andre, would you like to discuss the cars? But I think it was discussed at the GRF meeting. We have no control over the cars.
No, not the cars. I'm talking about the statistics that's showing how much cost we received. Okay, if we look at the particular, I'm not sure if you can show that slide again. If you look at particularly that statistic for resident services, total of 11,017 calls for the first 5 months. Okay, for this one. I'm not talking about the cars, before this one.
The first slide, that one right there, yes.
Oh, so year to date total cost 57,268. Let's just take the May 11,017. Okay, divide by let's say 22 days. That's about 22 working days. That's about 500 a month, every day. Okay. That is way too much, what I think. Okay, how much time do we have to spend on each of the calls or collectively? Let's just say, 1 hour from the resident service to the administration work and 2 hours for the staff to solve the problem. That's 3 hours. I'm just estimates. Okay, I don't have the total statistics, and I'm not allowed to. VMS is not giving away those information. Okay, so that's 500 times 3 hours is 1,500 hours. Okay, that's almost 1 year. Okay, 2,000 is 1 year hour. That's almost one person full-time for a year. That's 12 people for a month. That's just way too much. Is there any way that EMS can look into that and say, these things happen, we can prevent them from happening again? Take some preventive action, and then it will be reduced. So if we, during our process, we take some little bit of extra time and make sure that it will not happen again. Maybe that can solve a lot of problems. And we can, that's the waste I'm looking at and say, we need to do something about it. Please, VMS, pass on this information, and let's look into that exactly how much time we spend on these, and how can we reduce the time. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for your, and we will move on. Okay, I guess.
President
we are now
Margolis,
up to 9.
we do have a
Yes.
comment from Richard Rader, if you would like to hear it.
Yeah, let's go ahead and have the comment from Richard Rader, please.
It's very simple. If you look at the statistics, the amount of calls can be reduced by 1/2, 50%, if everybody would use Dwelling Live to record their gate clearances. That would eliminate 50% of the calls, and that would address most of the problem.
Okay, thank you, Dick. We need to work on that, and I'm sure people are. All righty. Okay, we're on to the CEO report, please.
Good morning, President Margolis and board members and residents of United. I have a quick little PowerPoint presentation to kind of introduce what I've already indicated on TV6 and we've sent out in the blast with regards to the reopening of the village in anticipation of going from the tiered system that we have now to the totally reopened plan that the governor has for June 15th. And so I just wanted to briefly go over that and go to the next slide, please. So the first thing is on June 15th, we will be reopening some of our clubhouse activities with regards to this, and I just wanted to go through them real quick. With regards to Clubhouse 1, there will be a no reservation for indoor-outdoor gym activities, so people can just walk in to the gym starting on the 15th. Indoor mini gym, badminton, pickleball, volleyball, the same thing. All of these activities will be available come June 15th. Indoor archery, shuffleboard, game room, billiards, and drop-off lounge. With regards to Clubhouse 1, it mentions up there modified hours to be determined. We're looking at right now at from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. All week long, Monday through Sunday, is our tentative plan at this point in time. With regards to Clubhouse 2, we'll have indoor recreation classes and indoor bingo will be the two activities that we'll have at Clubhouse 2. Next slide, please. With regards to Clubhouse 4, we have, as you know, the wood shop and the sewing machine and a number of different activities there, so we'll have no restrictions and reservations will not be required with regards to Clubhouse 4 activities. With regards to Clubhouse 5, the game room, indoor recreation classes, the gym, and Monday movies will be available at Clubhouse 5 as well. And then as far as guests go, wanted to mention with regards to the pools, 15 and older, if you have anybody 15 and older, if they're a guest, can be brought into the pools, as well as I wanted to get at this point in time, we are not going to have guests as part of the golf course operation. We are fully booked with regards to our residents using all the tee times, and we're going to evaluate as we reopening of these clubhouses and we get into the rest of the summertime. We're going to be reevaluating golf. We anticipate that people who have been gravitating to golf because it was an outdoor activity that was open, some of our residents will now go facilitate and use some of the other activities at the clubhouses which if that's the case, then that will open up some reservation times in which we can bring back the guest services with regards to golf. We're working with all of the golf management and the golf clubs to ensure that this is a smooth transition. Next slide, please. With regards to other activities, starting June 15th, paddle tennis, pickleball, and bocce. There won't be any reservation with regards to paddle tennis. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, noon to dusk. Tuesday and Thursday, 7 a.m. to noon. And first and third Saturdays at 7 a.m. to noon. Then pickleball, no reservations required from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. Monday through Friday. But we will be using the court's reservation system from 3 o'clock to 8 p.m. Monday through Friday. This is our kind of our non-prime time, so we want to make sure that we can schedule people on that. The court's reservation required all day Saturday and Sunday for our system. Bocce ball will not have any restrictions or reservations. Next slide, please. Tennis, daily, obviously operation starts full bore. We obviously been operating tennis, but no reservations required for courts 1 through 6. And then the reservation system required from 7 a.m. to noon on courts 7 and 8. And our reservation required all day on courts 9 and 10. This again, it opens it up to people who are just showing up and playing, and then obviously being able to reserve courts for individuals that have a specific time that they want to use. With regards to the pools, we won't have any reservation system other than pool 2. And pool 2's reservation system is based on that is our lap pool. And we want to continue our lap reservations so people are specifically in a certain lane and certain activity. And so with regards to that, we will have 5 lanes open with regards to that activity. And we'll continue to monitor that as we move forward with our operations. And with regards to the other pools, pool 4, 7 a.m. to 10 p.m., no lanes. Pool 5, 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. has lanes, but these lanes are really going to be open for individual swimming as opposed to the pool 2, which is for reservation process. And then pool 6 from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. and there's no lanes there. Unfortunately, right now we're waiting for a boiler, which is the main heating system for pool 1. And as soon as we have pool 1 open and running with regards to that boiler system, which had to come from back east and was held up by federal inspection process. But once we get that up and running, then we'll certainly get pool 1, which is one of our favorite pools, open. Next slide, please. As far as the community center, we will be opening on June 15th. Table tennis, the MAC Learning Center and PC workshops will be available, as well as the community fitness center. When it says modified hours, that's going to be based on the activities of table tennis and the learning centers upstairs with regards to PC and MAC will be based on the club's volunteer support. So their times will be determined based on that. And then with regards to the community fitness center, those hours will be similar to what we have modified with regards to our operations here at the community center. Resident services and manor alterations will continue to operate on a scheduled appointment basis. That has been very effective in meeting the needs of our residents, as well as making sure that we have the appropriate staffing to address their concerns when they come in. So these appointments will be from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. We were doing only half days, and we weren't filling all the appointments. So I assume by having a full day schedule of appointments, we'll certainly be able to meet all of the needs of the residents. So make sure that they will get the information out to make their appointments before they walk in. And then real estate, open houses may resume, as well as we'll have estate sales resume with regards to that operation as well. Next slide. And then after the 15th, coming July 6th, with regards to additional activities, Clubhouse 7 and 6, we'll be looking at the operations there. Clubhouse 7, the big one, is the bridge room. We're working with the Bridge Club to facilitate their reopening of that process. So we're looking forward to that operation and getting that back going. Clubhouse reservations with regards to individual clubs, we'll resume that process and getting clubs scheduled for their annual rollover, as we call it, and making sure that we have place for everybody to meet. Clubhouse 3, as we know right now, is going through its modification and won't be available for usage until September. So that's why we need to make sure that our club reservations working in an efficient manner so that we can get everybody in there at least on a regular basis. We also will be starting private party reservation process so people can have the weddings and the type of activities that they've had in the past where they can reserve clubhouse spaces for that activity. And then finally, mention that the Equestrian Center will anticipate opening up in July. We are going through a renovation of the arena right now, and we hope to have that project completed by the end of June, so we'll be able to open up our Equestrian Center operation come July 6th. And of course, we're going to have the July 4th parade, and I know Siobhan's going to probably mention that. So that's going to be our kickoff coming into July. And next slide. I think that wraps it up. And so we're positively excited about reopening. The one caveat I did want to mention to that is that the regulations of reopening are still driven by the governor and the state of California guidelines and Orange County guidelines with regards to health regulations. They continue to inform us of what that is, but they haven't come out with their final determination. We anticipate that it will be a full reopening, but I do want people to understand out there that with regards to our employee status here, we still are required to wear masks under the OSHA regulations. So you'll see a scenario where there may be residents coming in without masks, but our employees will still be in a scenario where masks will be required or be needed to be worn in their circumstances. So with that concludes my presentation, and I don't know if you want to, I know there's some questions there, so if you want to answer questions now or go over to Siobhan and have her finish first.
Let's do the questions now. Elsie, I'm going to do it just from screen because I don't have timing on it. Elsie?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Jeff, I just had two brief questions. One is on June 15th when the community center opens, does that include the boardroom?
Yes.
Oh, that's wonderful news. And also on Clubhouse 1 from the gym, I was a little confused because it said indoor, outdoor gym, but does that mean the indoor and the outdoor gym are going to be open? Because a lot of people want to know about that.
That's correct. Both.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. I appreciate it. Thank you for your presentation.
Carl?
I'd like to add on to what Elsie has said. She asked if the boardroom was available. I'm going to ask, are we going to now start doing governing in person rather than basically doing the Zoom thing? Because the Zoom thing to me is getting old. So what's the story with that?
That would be correct, Carl. The first board meeting will obviously for United would be the July meeting. And we are scheduled to be having those board meetings in the boardroom. We will also have a system where we'll be set up to have both Zoom operations and active people here in the boardroom so that the board members have an option to participate in either manner.
Does that include the committee meetings too?
We are still working on that with regards to the scheduling process but anticipate moving forward to committee meetings as well, yes.
Diane?
Yeah, my question for Jeff was, so do you think we'll be able to have dances again, like TGIF and Clubhouse 5 and all that?
Yes, We anticipate that, especially starting in July, that we'll be in a position where the clubhouses, the reservation process can be made, in which we'll be able to open up those clubhouses with the reservation process. So anticipating that, assuming we get clearance come June 15 by the governor, that is the plan, is to start that reservation process for July, and which will probably activate things in July, August, and beyond.
That's great. I really appreciate too that you're going to allow board members to use Zoom, because I do babysit on those days, so that's very nice. Thank you.
Okay, Andre?
Okay, I just want to, maybe Diane has already asked the question. So we may need to talk about what kind of participation approaches that we can. Can we participate with the Zoom if I'm out on vacation or a trip somewhere else, and allow certain board members to participate? There's no rule against using Zoom to participate, as long as you participate personally. So maybe we need to talk about during the meeting, this meeting, open meeting, or closed meeting.
Well, we will be talking about it, but I think he has said that we will be, you can be either on Zoom or in the boardroom. It is your choice. If you're on vacation, then you can take the meeting on Zoom. If you're in the area and want to be in the room, you can be in the room. Okay, Siobhan?
Thank you. So one quick question.
Okay, Netta, please put your hand up next.
Oh, sure.
Okay.
I just wait till everybody's finished. Okay, I just want to know that if the July 6th people can come to the center and do the reservation for the club, or they can do it prior to July 6th? For the parties,
That's a good question, Nada. We'll be starting the reservation process on July 6th. The Recreation Department will be starting that process and gearing up the reservation process. So they'll be handling by appointments and by using the internet and telephone to coordinate that. So we'll be getting more information out to the clubs. We're actually going to be having a specific dialogue with the clubs in the near future, where we're getting additional survey out to them, but we'll have a specific information that will be sent directly to the club presidents and the club memberships to make sure that they're going to continue what they've done in the past. They want to make the same appointments. That affects that rollover that I was talking about, where we just roll over certain club activities and their appointments. And so we'll be working with them starting when we get back in July 6th.
Okay, even for the rooms that people just reserve and do the classes or the parties?
Yeah, that'll start July 6th. That reservation process will start on the 6th.
Okay, thank you so much.
Sure.
Okay, anybody else? All right, let's go ahead. I'm sorry, Siobhan.
Thank you. Honorable President, members of the board, I just have a few announcements this morning. First of all, the Recreation and Special Events Department has announced the Monday summer movie schedule. So on the second and fourth Mondays in June, July, and August, residents may come to Clubhouse 5 in the main lounge to cool off and enjoy a movie. Movies will be shown at 11 a.m. and 4 p.m. The June 14th feature will be The Peanut Butter Falcon, and on June 28th, Soul will be shown. Movies are free. Reservations through the ActiveNet system are required 1 week in advance. The department has also announced the July 4th Golf Cart Parade. Residents are invited to celebrate this July 4th as part of the Community Independence Day Golf Cart Parade. The parade starts from Clubhouse 1 at 9 a.m., and registration is available via ActiveNet, and that registration is at no cost. Just a reminder, too, please, to our new residents. Residents new to the village are encouraged to attend a virtual new resident orientation session. These informal sessions are an opportunity for new residents to become familiar with the Mutual and meet a board member who represents the Mutual. The next United Orientation sessions for new residents are on Wednesday, July 14th at 4:30 p.m. and Friday, August 6th at 9 a.m. Residents must RSVP by emailing Executive Assistant Becky Jackson, and her email address is becky.jackson at vmsinc.org. And finally, just a reminder that there is a free bulky item pickup Saturday, June 19th. Please remember to notify resident services prior to setting out your bulky items. Their telephone number is 949-597-4600. Bulky items should be placed near the trash enclosure or in the same location you place your trash containers. Set out the items the night before or no later than 7 a.m. on Saturday morning. And that concludes my comments. Thank you.
Cash?
Yeah, I missed the location for the movie with 614.
Clubhouse 5 in the main lounge.
CH5 main law. Okay. Thank you.
Juanita?
Good morning. With all respect, I'd like to add to their report that the Laguna Woods Library is going back to full opening as of Tuesday the 15th. That means our regular hours, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday, and 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. on Saturdays. The patio library that has been so well used during the pandemic will be taken down. You'll come inside where we have thousands of paperbacks and puzzles, and your reserve books, et cetera, will all be inside now. Papers, newspapers, magazines, et cetera, will all be inside. The reading room will be open. You can come in and make puzzles. You could read the newspapers. You can use the computers that are in there. So starting on Tuesday the 15th, we will be open to all of our patrons. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. We will now go to the consent calendar. Can I have a motion to accept the consent calendar?
I have a comment, Sue.
Okay, Azar?
Yes, thank you. Is it possible, because you are asking for all of them together, I have an objection on the D part. When I read, is a very healthy tree, and I look at the picture, and I couldn't find any reason that tree be removed. This gentleman bought 7 months ago, and it is a personal because he wants the patio redo. There is no reason in the discussion even why we should cut a very healthy tree. Look at the picture and you can see, and I even went there and walked by there. I have an objection. I am asking the board consider not to taking down a tree because this person wants to just redo the patio and just a personal reason.
Okay. Well, then we'll separate the things and we'll do them each.
Okay, thank you.
Elsie?
Yes, ma'am. Didn't Andre add something to this 10E?
Yeah, he added a committee to the committee listing, which was the IT committee.
Oh, okay. But I don't see that on the adding the committee. I thought he said 10E.
That's exactly what he said. We're adding a committee with 2 people on the committee, Andre and Sue. It's to the committee list.
Yeah, and that's fine. I just thought I had to sit for 28 days to be on the consent calendar, but obviously I'm incorrect. Okay, thank you, ma'am. Sorry.
Manuel?
I just want to comment that Azar is correct. It doesn't say anything about the fish tree, which they're requesting that be removed because it's causing damage to the patio, but that's separate from the Carolina. So I'm surprised because usually landscaping is pretty specific about why they recommend this. So I'm kind of surprised that they don't have that in there. That's all. Thank you.
Okay. Andre?
Yes, I'm also about 10D. Usually for consent calendar, it has a statement like A and C. It has recommendation from which committee. I don't know which committee recommended this one. We haven't had a landscape committee meeting for quite a while.
Okay, we are going to take them separate. You can vote against it, and we'll just go on.
No. why is it even moved to this board? There's no recommendation from any committee.
Okay,
We don't just go send it to.
thank you for your input. We will move on. Thank you. I understand your concern.
I think we should remove it because it's not recommended by committee. It's a consent calendar that has to come from the committee.
Okay, thank you. Let's take a vote. Is there anybody that objects to A? Is there anybody that objects to B? Is there anybody that objects to C? Is there anybody that objects to E?
You
E.
mean D? You mean D?
I'm going to go back to D because then I'm going to take a vote on D. I'm going on to the ones that I didn't think would have objections. Is there anybody that objects to E?
I don't have an E.
The E is that the IT committee will be added with Andre and Sue as members.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question on that, Sue. Since this just got put in, which I don't have a particular problem with actually what is being done, except that we haven't basically documented what it is that's being done. So therefore, we're basically working off of some verbal information right now and not specifically what it is that we're actually doing.
Okay, what we're actually doing is GRF has added a committee, and we are putting on our representatives on their GRF committee. And that is the IT committee that will be selecting the new software and looking at all of the malware revisions, etc. And that is what we are putting our all people on that committee.
May I?
Okay.
May I?
There's no need. I am now going to call for a vote on E. Is there anybody that objects to E? Okay. Manuel?
Okay, thank you, Sue. If this is appointing members to a committee, I thought that all had to go through a resolution where you change.
Well, that's what this resolution is going to be, to change the committee listing to include this new committee.
No, I understand that, but usually identify all that, like who's going to be on it, whether or not they want to, there's a regular process you go through, and that's not being done by just adding this in here. So I agree with Carl.
This is just an amendment. We don't want to go through the whole thing over and just.
Okay.
You understand what I'm saying, Sue? This, anytime you change a committee formation, members, whatever, go through a formal process in a board meeting.
This is what we're attempting to do right now, is do the formal process in the board meeting to add a committee that GRF has started.
I don't think we're doing it the right way.
Okay, you can vote against it. So you vote against it. Anybody else voting against it? All right, it is passed, and we have Manuel against. All right, now let's take a vote on the cherry tree, D. I will do a roll call vote on that. Oh, Kurt is here. Kurt, would you like to give your input as to why that tree is being removed? Andre, please mute yourself. I guess, wait a second. Kurt, go ahead. Kurt, you're muted.
I'm pulling up the item as we speak. I apologize for coming into this meeting late. Is this regarding, which tree is it? Cherry tree?
The cherry tree at 64F. The Carolina Laurel cherry tree.
I can't seem to find the report here. 69F, you say?
Yep.
Bear with me.
64F. Okay, let's remove this from our agenda and we will bring it up in the next meeting, like Andre would like. So it will be removed. We will not be voting on it. And we'll give people time enough. I don't think it's critical that we take care of that today. So 64F tree will not be removed until after a meeting. Thank you.
I just want to say that I'm not against it, but I'm against the procedure at this point.
I understand you're against the procedure. We understand that.
And so we have time to study what's going on there. Apparently, nobody
we're
knows
done.
what's going on there.
We're done with it. It's removed from the list, okay? We probably need a vote for that. Is there anybody against removing this from the agenda? Elsie, you're muted. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, remove what from the agenda? I got.
You're removing 10D from the agenda.
The tree.
The tree.
So I have the answer now.
Oh, okay, go ahead, Kurt, but we're still going to remove it because.
This is one. It's causing the wall to lean and the patio to raise. It's right next to the wall, and it's causing damage to the infrastructure as far as the patio and the wall goes. And the resident wants to redo the patio, so they have requested that we remove the tree in advance of that work.
Okay.
May I read the discussion that from the inspection, Mr. Kirk? The inspection, what is in front of us says the cause actually is from most likely, if you see the last paragraph, they said most likely the cause from the wall is from the small ficus tree in the patio, which is the resident's responsibility. This tree, they said, in a fair condition with no trunk damage, with no visible pest and or previous pest damage. So it's absolutely a kind of a personal things, and this guy bought it only 7 months ago. So the tree was there for years, and he saw it when he bought this unit.
Okay. Is there anybody against removing this from the agenda? All right. The discussion is done. We've got too much to do today.
Well, why we are not voting no?
We're going to send it back to committee. And they can do it from the committee, okay?
Okay.
There is no committee. We don't have committee.
We hopefully will have the committee in July. Okay, moving on. Let's go to 11A. Both Diane and Azar, have you checked the finances against 5501?
Yes.
Diane, have you checked the finances of 5501?
Yes.
Okay, is there anybody voting against this besides Manuel?
Yes, thank you, Sue. I just want to make the statement that we're making improvements on our being compliant with various civil code requirements. However, there's still one big step that needs to be made, and I have discussed this with Jeff Parker as well as Huma. They've acknowledged that it needs to be done, and a high priority, but I don't know whether it'll be done in, hopefully I thought June, but maybe it'll be July, August, or whatever. Right now, the first incoming of cash is the of assessments. And that goes into a GRF account that's not carried on United's books. Then from there, the GRF portion is split out, goes to GRF, but the total assessment for both operating funds and reserve funds goes into the operating bank account. The only reason the reserve checking account has money in it is because from time to time, funds are transferred into there from the operating account. That is not the correct counting. That is not what the Davis-Sterling requires. The money should be split out at the point that GRS portion is split out. The reserve fund portion should also be split out and go into the reserve checking account. From then on, any monies from that checking account should flow reserve transactions. If they buy new investments, it comes out of the account. If they make expenditure, it comes out of the account. If they reimburse VM for payroll and related costs, it comes out of that account. And same thing with redemptions of investments. It comes back in that account. That is not happening yet. So that's the reason I'm voting no, because we still aren't, that's why we review these accounts, to see what we're not complying, when we aren't following the right procedure. So obviously my no until that gets completely established. And like I said, I've talked to Jeff Parker, Steve Hormuth, and they know it's a high priority, and they're assuring me they're working on it as quickly and as much as they can. Thank you.
Okay, Andre?
Yes, I have a question about, is this related to the check payment? Is that related to check payment?
It relates to the operating checks.
Okay, I have brought up some issues with landscape payment checks.
Those were not operating, those were reserve. Thank you.
Okay, so we don't need to sign off? I thought reserve is the one that we need to sign off.
Two people are signing off on the reserve checks, and that is being
done. I am assigned to...
No, you are no longer assigned to that process.
Anybody, may I ask who's assigned? And since when it's announced? There's no announcement on that. Suddenly things changed.
Okay, the announcement was made when we made the decision to investigate what went on. I took over the process in order to keep things moving. Thank you.
It says at least one board member. It didn't say two board members only. And also in the same
time, it has two board members. Manuel is signing off on them, and I am. Thank you.
Did you answer my question? I have a question.
Please mute.
So my questions are not point. My questions are not answered at this point. So we just, what question? May I? You just sign up as a rubber stamp.
Sue, you're muted. You're muted.
My question is, this is procedure supposed to clarify issues.
Sue, you are muted. You're muted.
Andre, you've been asked not to continue speaking. If you please continue, we will have to move you to an attendee.
My question.
Andre,
please. So the procedure at this point is even questions are not answered.
Andre, I've asked you 3 times not to do this. Please move him to an attendee.
Why?
Azar, go ahead, please.
Thank you. I am just responding to what Manny said for a little bit clear things. This is happening right now, Manny. I talked to Steve about a month ago, and we are starting. The reason you can see this 6.1 million is going down because we're moving ahead. It's just a 1 million ahead of the time from GRF, and then the rest of that, whatever you said it exactly at the end of the month, they calculated when the book is closed, and we return it to the operating account. So at this point, 1 million already goes from GRF, because normally we have about 1.5 million in a month that we get from assessment from GRF to the operating account. I wanted just to make sure that the whole system change, and this borrowing goes down because of this, that we found it and we put it ahead. And this happened already a month ago.
Okay, and I'm going to not, Emmanuel, I don't want to prolong this either.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I think we're done with that. So we're entertaining a motion, a resolution for non-emergency maintenance. Carl, will you go ahead?
Thank you, Sue. I sent an email to Grant to ask him to put up the chargeable services thing. I sent it a while ago, and I was wondering if he could put it up. But In the meantime, because we didn't put it up last month, and I just wanted to have everybody understand what the new chargeable services are. In any case, I will start. On April 10th of last year, the United Board adopted a resolution as part of the handyman program to expand our list of non-emergency maintenance chargeable services so that residents could have trusted VMS technician repair or replace an alteration that the resident had installed and for which Laguna Woods Village is no longer responsible to repair. In that program, we established a listing of services that would be offered with associated estimated costs that could be charged for those services. As would happen within any program, as we are using this program, we have found that additional services needed to be added since requests have been made for those services. The chargeable services listing in this new resolution that is being presented today supplements the services that were adopted by the original resolution that was approved on April 10th of last year. We have added 8 additional services to the listing, plus we have also added some limitations that is part of the chargeable services listing. These additions are shown in red in the electronic board package and the one that I sent to Grant. The M&C committee has already accepted these additions and on May 11th, it was approved by this board, and it is now on a 28-day delay. It is now before the board for final approval. We are only asking for the approval of the additions, and there's 2 pages, and we are not here to reassess the whole listing and the whole program. So please do not question anything that was on the listing before this resolution was reissued. I move this resolution. And as you can see there on page 1, those items that we added are in red. And then there's a page 2. If Grant can show the page 2, that there are items in red. And then the limitations, there was 1 additional limitation that was added. And that's basically it. As far as the costs are concerned, those are estimated costs. And that was what was agreed to by the committee at the time and what have you. And that was all justified based on information that was presented by the M&C committee and by the finance committee. So that's it. I move this resolution.
This motion.
Thank you, Elsie. Is there anybody against this motion? Cash, you have your hand up. Go ahead for discussion.
Yeah, I have one minor question. Under on first page, electrical, replace light bulbs, mutual supplied only, the bulb, $30 to $80 for mutual bulbs. Who does the charge go to? It should be resident supplied, not mutual supplied.
No, the refrigerators that we own, we have the bulbs for.
Yeah, so it should be mutual's responsibility, no charge.
No, it isn't. That is one thing that is not on a no charge.
It's considered a consumable, and as a result, it was that was going to be charged to the individual. At this particular point in time, that's a different subject. If we want to change that so that the bulbs don't get charged, then we have another meeting and another resolution. This is only for the chargeable services because at this particular point in time, that particular item was actually required for the resident to change the bulb. Now we're providing a service for them to change the bulb. We'll provide the bulb. But at this particular point in time, if we want to not charge them at all and make it something that we want to do, that's a different resolution for a different time.
Thank you.
Okay. Is there any, yes, Reza.
Can we, have we had chance to look at these changes? Because I saw one item over the shut-off valve, $45. What is that for? $45 for changing a shut-off valve?
Carl?
First off, these have been out there for 28 days. Secondly, was it in red? Because if it wasn't in red, it's already been on the list, okay? And we're not discussing anything that's not in red.
No, it is in red.
Where does it specifically indicate that?
Page 2. I
Page
just
2?
thought, yeah.
Water shut off on or resident request for alteration, repair, replace. Water
Just to
and
close
shut off.
it? What is it for?
It's for water shut off on, off, whereby that specific
Just
item.
to closing the valve?
Yes.
No, it's basically replacing the valve or repairing it.
Those valves are not repairable anyway. I've seen them, a lot of them are being
Well,
changed.
we're not, basically, if the angle stops at the wall are being changed, that belongs to the manor, that belongs to the mutual, okay? These are other water shut-off valves that are not, that do not belong to the mutual. Unless when the alteration was done, they changed the angle stops at the wall for a sink or what have you, now it becomes the owner's responsibility to take care of that. And in this particular case, if that was the valve that's being requested to be changed, then that was the one that would require them to be a chargeable service. Otherwise, it belongs to the mutual. And 99% of those water shut-off angle stops underneath your sink belong to the mutual. And you're right, most of the time those valves do not get repaired, they usually get replaced.
Talking about the outside valve, I'm not clear. Shouldn't this be discussed in the?
It was discussed in the M&C meeting, and it has been.
I don't recall that.
Well, that's not my problem. Okay, so you're against this? You vote no? Reza?
I would like to see what exactly it is before I vote.
Well, it's been on 28 days. It's been on the board's list. You've had two times to look at it. At this point, is there anybody else that has any problem with this? Okay, we're moving forward. It is passed with a no vote from Reza. Okay, temporary barring, Azar.
Thank you, Sue. Yes, I would like to make a motion to adopt a revised temporary borrowing from reserve fund authorization. We don't need 28 days because this is not a rule forever. It is just one time. It was not right from the beginning to put even 28 days. What happened?
Second the motion.
Thank you. Second motion, but since the board is open, I would like to say that beginning was 6.1 million, and we discussed this one. Steve did great job when we started about more than a week, go over the numbers. And what's happened, 1 month, of course, goes down for the what we got it from a tax from the members. So it came up to 4.6, and the rest of, with that movement that we said, we got it from GRF. It's our money, HOA goes to the GRF. Just the timing to give it to the operation fund in United was a different timing. And we discussed that one, and it was solved hopefully by coming not at the end of the month, partial at the beginning of the month, and the rest at the end of the month. Steve will explain all of that, and I am happy with this result that we bring 6.3 to 1.3. To all residents at hearing, this is not extra. I received email that this is extra, another 1.3 over 6.1. No, this is not extra. This is revising the 6.1 million to 1.3 million. Thank you, Steve.
Good morning, and thank you. So I'll go ahead and reiterate what Azar just said a moment ago, that yes, so in the earlier iteration of this, it was $6.1 million, but due to the fact that money was transferred over, according to the original pay plan, the balance is now 1.3. So as a result, staff recommends the board entertain a motion to ratify and approve the current temporary borrowing of $1,300,000 by the operating fund from the reserve fund to meet cash flow needs resulting primarily from the April 2021 payment of property taxes. Payback of the borrowed monies to the advancing fund is planned for 1 month, but is not to exceed 1 year from the date of approval. So, and as planned, we are anticipating making that payment by the end of June. So within the staff report, I provided, consistent with the previous month, some governing authority. So California Civil Code 5510 and 5515, specifically 5515, gives guidance on borrowing from reserve funds and kind of spells out the requirements and that it is allowable. So I won't read you the entire staff report, but during the May 11th, 2021 meeting of the Board of United, a temporary borrowing resolution was introduced with an amount of $6.1 million, and that was intended to match the interfund payable balance of $6,037,000 that was reported in the March financial statements, specifically the fund balance sheet. The motion was introduced and put on a 28-day hold, and then once again, based on what Treasurer Czar was just mentioning, due to scheduled payments having been made, returning the monies to the advancing fund, specifically the reserve fund, an updated resolution is being presented today. And ultimately, the numbers that was provided in the financial analysis of the staff report list the payable to the reserve fund as of April 30th at $4.6 million. There was a payment made to the reserve, from the operating to the reserve, of $3.3 million, leaving a balance as of May 31st of 1.3, and that is the net amount that is being recommended today for the temporary borrowing resolution. So, and if I may, I'll quickly go through the borrowing resolution. So, temporary borrowing resolution by operating fund from the reserve fund. Whereas, pursuant to Civil Code Section 5515, the Board of Directors may authorize a temporary transfer of monies from a reserve fund to the association's general operating fund to meet short-term cash flow requirements or other expenses if the board of directors has provided notice of the intent to consider the transfer in a board meeting notice pursuant to Section 4920. Whereas the notice required pursuant to Section 4920 has been provided in the agenda for this board meeting. Whereas it has become necessary to transfer monies from the reserve fund to the operating fund due to timing difference in where and when property tax and insurance assessments are collected and the corresponding amounts are required to be paid. Whereas the amount of the funds need to be transferred from the reserve fund to the operating fund has been determined to be $1.3 million, and the repayment of such funds from the operating fund to the reserve fund is anticipated to be more than provided by the future property tax and insurance assessment collections of about $1 million of property tax and $320,000 of insurance. Whereas it is planned and anticipated that sufficient cash flow will be generated in the operating fund to repay the $1.3 million to the reserve fund in June, and therefore a special assessment will not be needed. Now, therefore, be it resolved on June 8, 2021, that the transfer of up to $1.3 million is a temporary transfer from the reserve fund to the operating fund for the reserve stated herein, and with the plan to repay the funds in 1 month, but no later than 1 year from this date is hereby authorized. And further resolved that the officers and the agents of this corporation are hereby authorized on behalf of the corporation to carry out the purposes of this resolution. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Point of order, Madam President. This particular resolution, based on the fact that we removed it at the beginning of the meeting, but now we definitely have a new resolution because this has all been changed from the one that presented 28 days ago. So this should have gone under new business because at this particular point in time, this is no longer the same resolution that we presented 28 days ago. So at this particular point in time, I don't know where we are because first off, we took this complete resolution out of here at the beginning of the meeting. We took it off the agenda.
We did not take it out of here.
I thought we did. We revised it and we said it doesn't need a 28-day.
Okay, we'll call this a 12A and move on because we need to move on.
So I had my hand raised before Carl.
I understand we got a point of order, so we took the point of order. Go ahead, Manuel.
Okay. I need to clarify a few things. This was first presented 3 meetings ago. And at that point in time, we actually sent it back to committee because for a number of reasons. There was no indication of how the monies are going to be paid back. There was no cash flow portion. There was no resolution attached to it. It came back again the next time, again without a resolution, and that's when I stepped in and I came up with a resolution that needed to be done by the directors. At that time, the latest financial statement we had was the March financial statement, which showed a debt of over $6 million. So you had no choice other than to use whatever the latest information was. Since that time, a number of members and directors have been all upset about this thing. Even now, the latest financial statement that has been reviewed and submitted to us for ratification is as of April, and that shows that the debt is still $4 million. So we're working with projected numbers. That has nothing to do with the issue of the 501 as far as the bank account, and Azar is mixing the two. Okay, now the resolution has changed. I have the same concerns that Carl does, but we have to pass this to get this behind us. So even though there's confusion, go ahead and approve this resolution and get this behind us, because the main thing we got to do is we want to be compliant with Davis Flooring. Well, we've approved this borrowing, whatever the number is, and then we know it's being paid back, and hopefully, like Steve has projected, it'll all be paid back by the end of June or sometime in July. Okay, and that is separate for the right accounting for the checking account, which is our mixes up with this issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Manny. Please don't take other directors. All right, we're going to take a vote. Carl? On 12?
Yes, I'm okay with it.
Brian? Diane?
This is Brian. Yes.
Thank you. Diane?
Yes.
Reza?
Yes.
Azar?
Yes.
Manuel?
Yes.
Netta?
Yes.
Elsie?
Yes.
Cash?
Yes.
Thank you, everybody. We finally have passed this one. Moving on. Netta, entertain a motion to approve a resolution for appointment of officer to update the assistant treasurer ex officio. I asked you to present this one.
Oh.
Okay, you're not prepared? That's fine.
No, but it's...
All right, in order to cover Steve under our insurance, we need to make him an ex officio treasurer so that he is covered under litigation. Is there anybody that objects to this? Okay, that takes care of that one. The social media. Got my notes somewhere. Okay, oh boy. Got too many pieces of paper in the world. Okay, I move to adopt the following resolution as social media policy. Note, this is not to disrupt communication, but to make sure that false statements are not made unwittingly. Since the board is responsible for protecting confidential information and disclosure in social media by communication by directors poses a risk of exposing the board to a liability. Therefore, to ensure the board meets this obligation, collaboration is encouraged, and more strictly, unilateral communication on social media platforms to shareholders without coordination and sanctioning by the board is prohibited, unless a disclaimer is added to the posting. Okay, is there a second to this motion?
I second this motion.
Okay, is there discussion? Azar.
Thank you, Sue. Could you please, in this policy that is in front of us, let me know based on which number I can just ask in social media. I want to write down, is anybody knows a good plumber? Just for 4 words. For that 4 words, I have to write down 26 words.
No, it consistently states that you may use it for your personal.
Where? Show me in which number. Show me.
It was there last, I'm sorry, I at this point in time, but I know it's board-based information. It is not personable.
Number what? Because they said any comment. My word to the Mr. Jeff Bowman last time said, can you compromise that any? Look at the unilateral communication means. And he used this unilateral communication a lot. Means any communication of any method by a director not approved by board of directors. So any, that any is things.
Sue? Yes? Go ahead, Elsie.
Excuse me, Sue, I think I had my hand up right ahead of her. But
okay, go ahead, Manuel.
Okay, thank you. I am totally opposed to this policy, and I will vote against it. And I have a lot of good reasons for it. First of all, we know this is a result of some directors using social media as a platform for whatever agenda they had against DMS or against whoever. If I have something to report to the members that I think they should be aware of, I usually write a letter to the editor. I have never been questioned on any article that I have ever, information that I think members should be privy to. And I think there is information from time to time you have told them about. And that's because I base all my information on facts, figures, not opinions. And if I did provide something that was a matter of opinion, I would say so. Any person use social media other than the letters to the editor. Any director can still do the damage that you think he might be doing by just still using social media and then just expressing the statement into that, oh, this is just my opinion based on my participation as a director or whatever. He can couch it in such a way so this will have no impact on that director. And I also am opposed to anything that VMS out that is trying to restrict directors from a freedom that they have under the Constitution, freedom of speech. So, like I said, my recommendation is against this. We do not need a social policy. We have also the rules of conduct that we sign as a director, which requires you to handle these things properly. So, again, it's a bad policy. Thank you.
Okay. Cash, Elsie was next, excuse me.
Okay.
Thank you, Sue. In answer to Azar's request, if you look at section 2 definitions and then go to number 9, and the definitions are for purposes of this report, obviously. Number 9 says social media communications, unquote, means communications made by directors through social media concerning business related to the corporation and its operations. So it's pretty clear from the beginning that that's all that this is applying to, at least it's clear to me, that this is applying to directors making comments concerning business related to the corporation and its operations. So
no,
I think...
No, it's not, because on the 10 they said, and then they used...
It's for this whole thing. You're muted, Azar, but the definitions is at the beginning because that's what it means throughout. Anyway,
And it's in 11, they said any comment, any board member.
On the, dealing with the business of the board. Okay, Cash, excuse me, you were next.
Yeah, I'm on a touchy situation here. I've been falsely accused of some charges. And this kind of resolution will shut off and give directors no chance to get opinion of the public. Because this is total false accusation that has been made against me. And I do intend to go to the board, to the media, if I've been admonished, if I get admonished.
Okay.
I just want to make that clear. Thank you.
Reza?
I'm also against this policy because it's against freedom of speech. So I'm going to vote no.
Carl?
I'm going to vote for this policy because I think this board needs, and any board needs to basically be a one for all for one mentality. Once a vote is made on a particular item and the majority rules, whether it's 6-5 or it's 10 to 1, okay, the majority has spoken, and that's basically what we need to do. And what happens is we have people going out there and basically bad-mouthing the board and bad-mouthing VMS and bad-mouthing them and bad-mouthing the other thing, okay? This is basically a toxic environment for this particular board. And it's obvious out there, okay, with all of our constituents, okay, that they see that, okay? They see it every time we have a board meeting here, okay? So I think that we need to basically provide a means of noting what is responsible to be said and what is not responsible to be said. And I think this provides some guidelines. That's what they are, as guidelines. The one that Third had, okay, before, the one that I originally saw, that was basically, you know, I mean, you had no rights at all, okay? This one here is guidelines, and I'm okay with them. So that's where I'm going to vote yes.
Okay. All right, I will do a roll call vote. Carl, yes. Sue, yes. Brian?
No.
Diane?
I do not see Director Casey on the call. Perhaps she disconnected.
Okay. Reza, I gather, is no. Azar?
No.
Manuel?
No.
Netta?
No.
Elsie?
Yes.
Cash?
No.
Okay, it does not pass. We will move on. Okay, Elsie, the subletting conditionally.
Okay. Sorry. This came out of governing docs and was due in part to something that Manny had actually demanded, which we agreed with. And this is, we're considering to revise the subtitle from subletting, this is in the occupancy agreement. And we want to change the subtitle from subletting prohibited to subletting permitted. And then there's one other thing within the same Article 7 that we want to change. And see, before it said subletting prohibited in Article 7 of the occupancy agreement, but then if you read further, it said you had to get board approval. But the committee agreed with Director Armendariz that that was a misleading title, and it should indeed say subletting allowed, and then followed with the same conditions, i.e. the board approval has to be obtained to sublet your manor. So that's part of it. Okay, the other part is in that same article, it talks about, it says that rental income that comes from the unit shall be assigned to the corporation. And the intent of that, when it was originally written, apparently, was that rents would be paid to the corporation, and then the corporation would subtract anything that was owed to it before it released those monies to the manor owner. Well, that's never been done. We've always let the manor owner collect the rents, and then the manor owner in turn is responsible for paying the assessments, or anybody. We don't care who pays the assessments. So while we were at it, and since we noticed that, we said we should really change that from shall to may. And that leaves it open where if the person is arrears, if the sublessor is arrears in assessments, the mutual can require the rents to be turned over to the corporation first. So we left that possibility in there, but we just want to change the shall to may. And the other thing we want to change is subletting forbidden to subletting permitted. And it's a fairly simple resolution. It just calls for those two things. It's resolution. I can read the whole thing. Or here, this is the now, therefore, let it be resolved that the Board of Directors hereby amends Article 7 of the occupancy agreement in accordance with its practice, and that the officers and agents are hereby, et cetera, et cetera. And then the attachment will be the occupancy agreement with those two corrections made. So are there any questions about that?
Okay, is there a second to the motion?
I'll second that.
Okay, is there any objection to this? All right, let's move on. Andre voted no on 12C. I want to count his vote. You can let Andre in for the committee reports, please. All right, let's start down on the financial czar.
Thank you. Can we have the first slide? We had a finance committee meeting on May 25th, 2021. And if I get the first slide, I will give the report of that. Thank you. In the first slide, you can see through the reporting period of April 30th, total revenue for United was $15.3 million compared to expenses of $13.1 million. Therefore, resulting in net revenue of $2.1 million in favor of United. Slide 2, please. In finance, we keep a close eye on the operating portion of our financial results. So the operating fund, you can see in this slide, without a depreciation, shows an surplus of $844,000 through the reporting period. This chart shows how much of revenue went into operation, with $11.2 million coming in from assessment and $460,000 coming from non-assessment revenue. In another slide, I will show you what is non-assessment revenue. This is compared to operating expenditures of $10.8 million without depreciation. Can we have slide 3, please? Thank you. This next chart takes the full income statement and compares those results to budget. We can see that United ended the period better than budget by $2.6 million when combining both operating and reserve funds. Slide 4, please. is a nice one because you can see by chart where comes the most significant variance. You can see 1, 2, 3, 4 of them is in favor of the United, and only one of them, which is unrealized gain, unfavorable. The outside service favorable to the board, to United by almost 1 million, due to budgets are spread evenly for programs such as waste line remediation, building structure damage restoration, and tree maintenance. And the next favorable comes from the employee compensation, 455,000, and the various resulting primarily in M&C department and landscaping. The next one is 326,000 favorable again through materials and supplies, and resulting in several areas of operation such as interior components, plumbing, and appliances due to timing of expenditures. Of course, that 59,000 comes from legal fields, favorable again, resulting to lower expenditures to date than anticipate compared to the budget. These are based on the variance comparing to the budget, of course. The only unfavorable is 341,000 that is comes from unrealized gain on investment due to adverse condition for bond investment during the reporting period. Can we have slide 5, please? This is a better one because it's pie chart, and you can see what is the percentage. On this pie chart, we show non-assessment revenue earned to date is 509,000, excluding the unrealized loss on available for sale investment. So you can see this shows that, for example, 38% of non-assessment comes from fee and charge, and 90% from laundry, 10% from investment income, and so on. These are non-assessment, that means it's coming income, not based on HOA, extra of that. Can we have a slide 6, please? This slide, on this pie chart, we see expenses to date, which is $13.2 million, showing that our largest category of expenses are employee compensation. You can see 34%. Well, of course, in this chart, you can see property tax and sales tax is 30%, which this is separate, and in the next chart, you will not see that one. But as a whole, you can see 34% goes to the compensation, 30% to the property tax, followed by 10%, one for insurance and utility, and the rest is just a minor percentage. Also, you can see on the right side that utilities expenses on the right side at the break of the utilities. Can we have a slide 7? This slide is exactly the previous slide. The only things we take it off the property tax. So therefore, because property tax resident pay and then pay back that one, this is not comparing to the expenses. This is the total expense. You can see now clearly that 50% goes to compensation from all expenses, and followed by the next one is 15% insurance and 14% neck to neck with utility. The rest is minor, 1-digit percent comes. So these three is the biggest one, compensation, insurance, and utilities. Can we get number 8, please? Thank you. Our fund balance are shown here. The contingency fund balance on April 30th, 2021 was 593,000. Contribution and investment revenue totally 236,000, while expenditures came at 40,000. The reserve fund balance on April 30 was 21 million. Contribution and investment revenue collected total 3.3 million, while expenditures was 2.2 million. And this gives a good idea about where we stand for the reserve and contingency. One more time, I am explaining here that the contingency fund is totally in the operating account. Can we have slide 9, please? This is a good slide. Normally we compare these two historical fund balance for the past 5 years on the chart, which have average of 21 million. And you can see we are slightly above of that. So compared to the last 5 years of the replacement fund. And if we can get a slide 10. This is a good, we have a slide here to show the resale history. I am sure that some people are interested in that. We always compare to the last 3 years. I mean, 2019 to 2021. The orange one is 19, yellow 20, and the blue one is 21. Through April 30th, United sales totaled 121, which is 9 higher than prior year. We had a good sales this year so far. And the average resale price for United Mutual is stay at 261,000. And I guess that was the end of the report for the treasurer. And the next meeting for finance is June 30th, 2021 at 1:30. I am guessing it would be a virtual meeting, or maybe, as they said, hybrid, both virtual and in the big board. Thank you. Sue?
I'm muted. Cash, do you have a comment?
Comment basically, can I ask a question to Azar?
Sure.
Or no?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, I have let me pull up to the page. Yeah, you're on slide 4, page 4. You're showing unrealized gain or loss of 341,000. I was wondering what this was about. Any particular reason, or because we switched?
No.
From
No, it is a long term. It's going up and down based on these are bonds. These are bonds. Is long term bonds, and it's going up 1 month. It's going down 1 month. This is not something we have to report it. So we have to report that residents should know. It's not something we are cashing right now. Therefore, we lost 341,000. Yes, if you have forced it to cash it right now today, that's our loss. But it's not. Actually, it was lost in April 30, but this month actually goes up. So it's not something that we have to report it, but not to be worried because it's long-term investment.
Okay.
Thank you.
Elsie, are you going to?
Yeah, I do have one more quickly.
Okay.
On page 5, you're talking about golf cart electric fees. Should that be any electric cars? Don't we have any electric cars?
Yes, we do have electric cars, but remember those electric cars goes. I am guessing the electric cars related to the United is for United, and the rest as a general is for the GRF. Steve, am I right?
No, those are, that includes the cars as well as the golf carts.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
thank you.
Richard Rader also has a comment.
All right. Okay, go ahead and allow him to comment. Please go ahead, Richard.
I think it would be helpful if we included in the treasurer's report the percent leasing so we could see how that's tracking. So, Zara, can you include that?
It is, yes, thank you for mentioning that one. If you were, I am guessing you were in finance last time.
No, it should be for the community.
But you're not letting me to finish my sentence.
Okay, sorry.
That's okay. We asked, and Steve is working on that. Is not belong to, as I heard from Steve, is not belong to finance department, but he asked already, and we put it as a request in a last meeting. So hopefully pretty soon we get it and we add this one. You are right. This is necessary to know, and we're gonna add it as a rental percentage or number to the future, as soon as Steve can find to the future report. Thank you for mentioning that.
Thank you. One other comment. I think the board should pay particular attention to the contingency fund. It is really low. I hope that will be taken up during the budget meetings.
Thank you. Contingency, as you know, is the kind of emergency, basically, fund that we have it for emergency. And you're right, last year we had some emergency that should take care of that, but it depends what's happened. Hopefully we don't use much emergency funds.
Okay, Elsie, architecture.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just took over for 1 month. Brian was, the regular chair was on some personal business elsewhere, and I was happy to do it. This was the meeting on May 26, 2001. We covered, Mr. Don Cost, Robbie Don Cost is the head of the head of the alterations department, and he gave us a current inquiry status. Carl Randazzo brought up the manor alterations news bulletins, and in this meeting, I'd like to heartily encourage people to read. It comes out. Oh man, I think it's monthly. But Carl, is it bi-weekly or is it monthly?
Bi-weekly.
Okay, and it's really good, and it comes out in the Friday Blast, and it comes out. There's several places I've seen it where you can access it. You can access it on the website. There's a whole little list of all the past, and those are directed towards real estate agents and contractors and general residents, and it's really good. It's called the Manor Alterations News Bulletin, and it's doing real well. In variance requests, we reviewed and approved a variance request that the board has voted on today at 690A Avenida Sevilla. We went and we had a really, really, really spirited discussion about the proposed increased alteration fee schedule. And finally, after much very, very spirited conversation, we had a motion was raised to create a resolution stating that the increased unauthorized alteration fees are to be applied only to violating contractors. And the violating contractors would be banned from working with the Laguna Woods community until the fine was paid. And then eventually, if they're repeat offenders, they won't be allowed to work here anymore. Now that is as opposed to previously unauthorized alteration fees were charged to the resident. However, I don't have a record in the minutes of a vote having been taken. I thought we voted on it, but it didn't come to this board. And so I'm sure we'll hear more from the alteration fee schedules which was ultimately pushed forward to next month. And I apologize for that, Brian, but that's the way it goes. So we also talked about the permitless alteration program, and an approved letter has been sent to the city of Laguna Woods and summarized the quantity and classification of permitless alterations received thus far. We also talked about the asbestos meeting report, during which there was another very spirited conversation. No action was taken. We talked briefly about KPIs and an update on an ongoing resident issue with permits. And that's my report. Thank you. Oh, and the next meeting, please excuse me. The next meeting is June 17th, just in a few days at 9:30. And all residents are encouraged to attend. Thank you very much.
Okay, Cash, member hearing.
Thank you, Madam President. The committee, along with Elsie Addington and Reza Bastani, three of us, we had several cases discussed, and using leniency wherever possible and being tough wherever possible, we resolved them. Next meeting is on June 24th at 9 a.m. and it's a closed meeting, so no one else can attend. Thank you.
Okay, governing docs, Elsie.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The most recent Governing Docs Committee was held on Thursday, May 20th. And we welcomed back, the committee welcomed back Pamela Bashline. She had been on leave for a while, and it was she's the Community Services Manager. And we were really excited to have her back. Chair Oddington also stated that sales are going well and staff is working hard to clear the backlog. I think there is no more backlog at this point. This was a month ago. Chair Addington discussed that the financial qualifications policy will be fine-tuned to align with changes to AB 3182. I requested an update regarding a resident on Mariposa East, and I believe that gentleman is going to be addressed later on in a closed meeting, so I won't say anything more about that. It regarded a lost instrument bond. We went over in depth for really a long time on the financial requirements to members, for members that want to purchase here. No action was taken, as it turned out. Then we did the subletting conditionally permitted language changes, which the board just voted on just now. Oh, and there was one more thing, conditionally permitted, change shall to may, and then the other thing was we're supposed to bold without prior written consent. That's just not a change in language, it's just a change in format. And without objection, the motion carried. We talked about, our ongoing discussion of our goals for 2021, including the careful review of active and inactive resolutions and the updating of the website, but that's a whole separate project. As you know, the website's being discussed. Website renovation is being discussed for the 2022 budget. President Margolis emphasized that the governing documents need to be in alignment with Assembly Bill 3182. And that was a long meeting. And the next meeting will be on June 17th at 1:30. Thank you very much. That's my report.
Okay. There will be no landscape report until the investigation is completed. Thank you. We're moving on to maintenance and construction. Carl?
Thank you. The last United MNC meeting took place on April 28th, and at the last board meeting, I discussed what had been transacted at that meeting. However, during this past month, we had budget meetings to discuss what items will be placed in the 2022 budget. No final decisions have been made at this time. Our next meeting will be a virtual meeting that is scheduled for June 23rd at 9:30 a.m. All residents are invited. Please come and get involved.
Thank you.
And Netta, is there anything to be reported on communication?
No, we don't have any meeting. And just the only things that I want to ask you about the resident advisory, if you want to open the center, maybe we should do something for that committee to back. People need it.
Okay, we will be doing something with that committee as soon as we can. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, we'll go to the GRF committee reports if there's nothing else here. Azar, the finance.
Yes, thank you. The last meeting, GRF finance meeting, was April 21st. Therefore, in May, we did not have any finance committee meeting. So I don't have any new things to report. The next meeting will be June 23rd, 2021 at 1:30, and it will be a virtual meeting, and we welcome all the residents to join.
Okay, Andre, do you have anything from the GRF strategic to report?
Strategic meeting initially scheduled on June 14th, moved to June 16th, but members could not participate, so it's to be determined, and Sylvan is making arrangements to allow everybody to participate.
Thank you. CAC, Elsie.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The CAC meeting, the committee met on May 13th, 2021. Chair Pearlstone showed a great deal of respect for Director Moldow, as he had passed recently. And he talked about striving to keep some of Bert's ideas moving forward to honor his memory. We talked about availability in regards to availability of activities due to improvement of the pandemic, but the caveat is it will take several months to phase in new activities, mostly due to the difficulty in replacing staff due to COVID layoffs. And the committee passed forward to the GRF a modest fee increase on buckets of balls at the driving range and various locker rentals and catering fees. So if I didn't say that correctly, the committee passed a motion, which was passed on to GRF. So we don't know if I don't know if it's been approved yet. And it was a modest fee increase on the bucket of balls at the driving range, various locker rentals, and catering fees. We had a report on the recreation and special events opening up. And this is kind of dated material because we were still in the orange category last month, and you can get much more updated stuff on the much more updated situation with recreation and special events on the website and through the Friday blast. Mr. Gruner updated several facility updates, and he introduced Mrs. Covarrubias. She's the equestrian supervisor to provide an update on the equestrian center. And there have been many improvements at the equestrian center, and people should go over and take a look at it. Mr. Gruner stated that the upcoming yellow tier only changes the capacity level of our activities. Staff will be meeting with club presidents, continue working on the reopening plan, and strive to improve the staffing shortage issue. Reopening of facilities, again, depends on staffing, and he wants to be transparent with the community. Director Dodson inquired as to eliminating all the reservation systems on June 15th. Mr. Gruner stated that the reservation systems will be reduced via a gradual reduction process with modifications. Mr. Gruner stated staff is currently discussing contract renewal with Saddleback Emeritus Institute. And if that contract negotiation is successful, there will be approximately 75 class offerings. The next meeting is June the 10th at 1:30. That's my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Manuel Landscape, GRF Landscape.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Landscape Committee last met on March 10th, and I had reported on that previously. The next meeting is scheduled for tomorrow, June 9th at 1:30 p.m., and that'll be a virtual meeting. Again, just a point to make everybody aware, GRF Landscape Committee meetings are only held quarterly. So that's why one isn't coming up until tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you. Media and Communications, Netta.
Thank you.
Ooh,
Media and Communication, sorry?
Go ahead, I skipped one.
Okay. Media and Communication held on May 17, and the report from Ms. Pauline is about the final village vaccination clinic on Saturday, May 15, the large volume of phone calls and emails handled by the Media and Communication Department, the twice monthly manner alteration newsletter, plans for next year to renovate and update the Laguna Woods Village website, plan to distribute a village survey next year. And then Mr. Ortiz is do the update for the broadband. That included the operating costs, non-assessment revenue, programming costs, franchise fees, and net revenue and expenses. And the other one is the first, that he described it, is the first quarter of 2021 broadband. And the broadband group is recommended that about, and we discussed it in the meeting, is about the West Coast Internet contract, franchise tax fee, the pros and cons of splitting nudes versus fiber to the curb, and a 5-year plan. A discussion on the advantage and disadvantage of cable versus internet. And the next meeting is going to be June 21 and 21st at 1:30 p.m.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Carl, the GRF Maintenance and Construction Committee, please.
That's okay. I don't feel slighted that you passed me up. That's okay. The GRF M&C Committee had a meeting on April 14th. At that last board meeting that we had, I discussed what had been transacted at that meeting. However, during this past month, we also had a number of budget meetings to discuss what items will be placed in the 2022 GRF budget. No final decisions have been made. Our next meeting will be a virtual meeting, the M&C meeting, that is, GRF, and that is scheduled for tomorrow morning, June 9th at 9:30 a.m. It's a Zoom meeting virtually, and all are invited via Zoom or Granicus or whatever means you want to take. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sorry I slighted you.
That's quite all right.
Elsie, Mobility and Vehicles, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Mobility and Vehicles Committee meeting was held on June the 2nd, 2021. And we had a long report, a very detailed report from Chris Langenauer. He really can get out, he really shows out the data, but it was interesting and nicely presented. The bus ridership is increasing also after the pandemic, because of course hours were cut, staff was laid off during the pandemic. People were, very hesitant to get onto the buses and go anywhere. So obviously our ridership went down really bad, but it's starting to come back. And also the Boost program, which is Lyft, our contract with Lyft, and Journey, which is our disabled medical, that's really coming up nicely. So as our COVID situation improves, our ridership's going up, which is to be expected. From January to April, the monthly trips, this is not people, this is just trips, that the monthly average trips for the buses was 4,692. For Lyft/Boost, it was 32, which is still tiny. And Journey, which is the medical one, was 434 average trips per month during these last few months, and it's trending upwards. So that's he had a good ridership presentation. And then we covered that. Oh, and Saturday buses, something I found out that I didn't realize, Saturday buses were actually canceled for the 2020 budget. I knew Saturday buses were off because we worked a long time to get them into the budget. And then when they weren't running on Saturdays through 2020, I assumed it was because of the COVID, but I was incorrect. So if I've given any bad information to people about the Saturday buses are coming back, I was incorrect because they were taken out for budgetary reasons and it was never included in the 2021 budget, and it's not being planned for the 2022 budget. So, oh well, but other transport is available on the weekends, and you should call the transportation to find out what it was. What is available and how to deal with it. We also got a very detailed report on every single vehicle, and I think there's 412 in our fleet of vehicles, and he had presented several charts showing inactive vehicles that were replaced in 2020, vehicles that are scheduled to be replaced in 2021, and then vehicles that are past life expectancy and replacement is recommended. And that was it. Thank you to Chris Langenauer for a very informative presentation. That's my report.
Next meeting is August 4th at 2021 at 1:30. Security.
Sorry about that. You're correct.
Manuel.
Thank you, Sue. The last meeting was held on April 26th, and I report on that before, but I'd like to bring up a couple things that I think are as reminders. One is that we've been concerned about bicycle thefts and other personal items, and they did 2 people. And of course, they called the sheriff's department and took them away. And in spite of the fact that we have a secured community here with our system, unfortunately, some of these people are people that are friends or relatives of members. That's what they found out from these 2 that they captured. And again, it's important that if you see anything suspicious, alert security. And you could be anonymous when you do this. Also, don't do it. What's right? Use the right judgment. Don't do it just because something's bothering you. Do it because it's suspicious that might be causing a problem to the community. The other thing that came out of the meeting was that the suggestion was made to furnish 6 units or residences with fire preventers that are installed on your electric stove in case an unattended fire was to occur, or even an attended fire. And Third has now approved that, and they are in the process of obtaining 6 volunteer members to have these installed there. I am hoping from that will work out successfully, and we can start doing that throughout the community. Maybe that would help us with our insurance problems. That's what was important from that meeting. And the next meeting is scheduled for June 28th at 1:30 p.m. as a virtual meeting. Thank you.
Okay, Cash.
That was fire alert device, not fire something. Fire alert. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Traffic hearings, Netta.
Traffic hearing held on May 19th, and we have 4 violations that included no valid decal or parking permit, vehicle used for storage, expired registration, and abandoned vehicles. That is all solved, and the next meeting will be June 16 at 9 o'clock. Thank you.
Thank you. Disaster preparedness, Juanita.
Sorry, I had to turn my mic on. The disaster preparedness meeting found that we are sadly lacking in neighborhood building captains. We did have up to 400. The security department has sent out emails to those asking if they are still willing to serve, and they only received 60 replies back. So if you have been a neighborhood building captain, please let security know that you're still willing to serve in that capacity. And we will be having new training for building captors, kind of a refresher course coming up in the next month or so. And anybody who is willing to serve in those capacities, please let security know. We need to build that back up again. Thank you.
Okay, Diane?
Yeah, I just had a comment that, I was mentioning that to some other people about the captains, and they said that maybe staff could send out a letter to all the clubs to see if their participants would be interested. They could announce it at their meetings. Anyway, that's the comment I had. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, I'll give a quick report on the insurance. We're meeting every other week. The situation is we're waiting. They did a study for the probable maximum loss. We should be getting that number by the end of this week. We had hoped to have it last week. We're having a little discussion with NCB. They may not be able to give us loans unless we have full restoration costs. We are getting a number as to how much that would cost in insurance to have full restoration. I believe it'll be prohibitive. We have decided to continue with our coverage till October and to renew in October because we saw third is renewing theirs this month and they had an increase. We don't need to take an increase unless it's when we need to renew. We are working very tightly with them to put insurance into probably the probable maximum loss, and we will be working with them also on the HO6 coverage. We are working to see if we can get a full manner coverage for everyone in HO6. And we'll be meeting every other week. We met Monday this week, and we'll be meeting in 2 weeks, and that's the state at this point. Diane?
Yeah, I was talking to Elsa yesterday about insurance, and I did review my insurance with my agent just to be sure I was covered correctly. And, I did raise some different things, which weren't a lot of money, but it covers my building property and personal property. And, one of the other things was on the loss of use, especially with the earthquake coverage, and I even upped the building property coverage to $100,000. So, and that was only $100 for the year. So it's a good idea for people to review their insurance with their agents so that they make sure that they're covered for their personal property and inside property. Thank you.
Thank you. We will be putting together probably a listing of what we would hope each person, each manor would have as a minimum with qualification. We've been told that we can require everyone to carry HO6 legally. So we're looking at what we need to do. Thank you. Manuel?
Yes, I just want to have Diane clarify her statement, which, she said it only cost $100. I believe what meant by that was that she only had an increase in the premium. I would assume that her property insurance premium annually is somewhere between $700 plus on up. So Diane, clarify your comment, please.
Oh yeah, no, mine is $867.
There you
but
go.
I do have property of $151,800 because I have a lot of upgrades, and $48,300 for personal property. and personal liability, and I'm very comfortable with that. I didn't raise anything on that one. It was mainly the building property for the earthquake. If we were to be leveled, I mean, we would be in a lot of trouble, and the loss of use. Now, I did find out something from my agent, and that's State Farm, is that right now they have a loss of use, which is actual loss sustained for 2 years. They'll support you if your place is being rebuilt or something, but that's going to change. So there's going to be a limit on that. So anyway, it's just good to check out what your insurance offers. Thanks.
Carl?
So you and I and some other people have had discussion recently regarding this insurance because some people have had some damage to their manor as a result of leaks in the wall, and these leaks were not catastrophic leaks. These leaks were drips that came from either a drain line or came from a supply line, and as a result of that, that caused damage to the wall, and then it caused damage to altered components within the manor. Unless you have a special rider or check with your agent, but under the circumstances right now, unless there's a catastrophic leak, most insurance companies do not cover if you have a dripping leak in the wall that goes on for like 6 months or what have you, then all of a sudden it manifests itself, or if you have a slab leak, because slab leaks are also another issue. And just be aware of that, because if you have that kind of a leak, they will not cover the claim unless you talk to your agent and find out if there's something you can do. And for those type of leaks, that's what we see sometimes within Laguna Woods, whereby these leaks are happening. They're a dripping leak from a drain line or what have you, okay? And that's an issue, and that's a lot of money.
Okay. I know that Dan Yost is working on that problem as well, so we will be seeing what happens. Okay, we're at director's comments. I will go around. Manuel, go ahead.
Thank you. The only thing I wanted to say about what Carl stated was that your insurance policy will usually state that a water problem will be covered if it is a sudden occurrence, and that's the language you will typically find in there. I have had slab leaks, and I've had them covered by my policy because I was very careful how I dealt my insurance agent and with the company. And so I was careful not to say it was something that slowly developed. When I presented, I said, all of a sudden this leak occurred. So that's the key there. I'm not saying every insurance company will cover you, but read the language in your policy and be careful how you present to your insurance company. The other thing I want to come in about what Diane said, you should also in coverages have what is called loss assessment coverage. In my policy, I have I think $60,000. And that means that will cover you in the event the mutual's insurance isn't sufficient to restore your unit to make a special assessment to all members. So when you updated your policy, I'm sure you got that, but if you didn't, you should have that. Like I said, I have it on my policy. All the coverage is, as you mentioned, plus loss assessment coverage. Thank you.
Yes, I did up that one because I did not have an adequate amount for $25,000. So yes.
Okay, Azar, any comments?
Yes, thank you so much. I have a comment and actually a question from Mr. Parker. Mr. Parker, if you remember, about 2 months ago in the meeting, some director asked you to open the community center partially so residents can come in person. And you mentioned that this is not possible because a ventilation in the building is not adequate and it's not safe for workers and for a staff and people comes to the building due to COVID-19. Well, we accept. And 2 weeks ago from your office, we received an email that if director has any suggestion or for any idea for project for new budgeting. I mentioned that one as a suggestion. We get a lesson from COVID-19 by hearing COVID-32 is on the way to coming. So how about check the vandalization in the community center so not happen. If happen again, we are able to use that building. By surprise, I received a response from your office that staff are not aware of this problem. So my question is, are you sharing the problems with the staff or staff aware of the problem that you're mentioning?
Well, if I apologize, let me take that out. If I can hear you better, I'm not sure the specific to your question relative to the air conditioning here at the community center. We have a system that goes through processing with regards to the air here. So your statement about, I made a statement 2 months ago with regards that we didn't have that. I'm not sure if that's accurate. With regards to our personnel, we have certain OSHA requirements that we have to have with regards to distancing, with regards to masks, with regards to cleaning facilities. We have various regulations that we have with regards to that. And I'm not sure that's answering your question. If you have something more specific, I can certainly talk to you offline. If it's something that you're asking a question, if it's relating to our residents, continue to ask and I'll see if I can answer.
No, Mr. Parker, you mentioned that we have a problem with the ventilation.
Okay, let's take that offline. We've got to get through the meeting here so we can have some lunch and go on to be closed. So if you wanted, he will take it offline with you.
Sure.
So, okay, you mean...
They are being able to go into the building if they make an appointment at this time.
Well, at this time, I understand what prevent for the future, but right now we are all vaccinated. Sue, this is the comment that we can have. At least, can we talk 3 minutes about that? I know you're hungry and you wanted to go, but this
but we aren't going to solve that here. We need to take it at the M&C meeting. This is not the place to solve that problem.
I didn't ask for solve. I said why Mr. Parker mentioned.
Well, he said he doesn't remember saying that.
The staff doesn't know about that problem. I mean, that's my question.
There is no problem with the air conditioning in the building.
Sue, I do want to answer the question. I never said that the community center had a circulation problems. We do have some issues with regards to other clubhouses, but not specifically the community center.
I remember.
Andre, you have not been called on, please. But okay, moving on. Cash, do you have any comments? Cash, do you have any comments?
No comment. Thank you.
Neda?
So I have 2 comments. One is about that I totally remember because I wanted to open the center and Jeff said that we have a problem with the ventilation. And the other thing that I want to ask is about that for how long when the one unit, one manor is vacant, the compliance go and check it. Because as I know about the rules, every 6 months, if the manor was vacant, the compliance supposed to go and check the unit. Is it right?
I believe that is correct, but they haven't been able to. It was manor alterations that had to do it, and they haven't caught up on their listing. Is that correct, Siobhan?
That was the case for a bit in time, but I think they're moving back towards it. Sue, I'll get an update for everybody and provide it to the entire board.
Thank you. Yes,
Yeah,
that is the correct time.
Yeah, because it's the issue for that. We can talk about it in the closed meeting. I think it's better, but I just want to check for the 6 months with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Reza?
I have a suggestion. the minutes of meeting normally are issued. It takes a long time to be issued, especially committee meetings. It takes sometimes a month or so. By the time that the meeting note is being issued, everybody forgets about it. My suggestion is maybe we can make a rule that they should be issued in a week after the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Elsie? Any
First of
comments?
all, thank you for a really good meeting, Sue. You moved it along, and we got a lot of stuff covered. It was very rewarding. Thank you. And the only other thing I have, and the reason is because people are listening, I wanted to correct Director Armandaris on one little thing. When he was talking about HO6 insurance, I believe what you were talking about was special assessment insurance or a special assessment rider. You said something different. And
it's called loss assessment. The rider is called.
It's also called special assessment. Mine's called special assessment.
Can be either.
So that's all. I just wanted to say that it could be under different names. Thank you.
I don't have any comments already.
Okay, thank you. Diane?
Yes, very good meeting, and I don't have any comments. Thank you.
Okay, Brian? Okay, Carl?
No, I think I've said enough. Thanks and the meeting was great. Thank you.
Okay, Andre?
Okay, first I want to say I agree with Azar. I remember Jeff said there's problem with AC that cannot handle virus. And I also remember Carl also commented that our AC system is capable of handling virus. So I don't know why the staff came up with a different answer. And I'm not happy with this kind of cover up and give us a two-sided story, and so we don't know how to deal with that. The board cannot handle that kind of a situation. So VMS has to be very honest and provide us the solid information. Okay. Second, the issue is the same as cash. I'm also under VMS investigation. It is obvious VMS, some board members don't like some questions and want to silence board members that voice their concerns about VMS operations. In my case, it's just a general harassed statement accusation, no specific statement. Maybe because they are just witch hunt or try to see if I make a wrong statement and nail me on my misunderstanding. Okay, so that's a very bad practice. That's illegal. Okay, and also as far as landscape check payment, it's not approved without answering my question. I had questions. Okay, maybe people don't like my questions and they just somebody else refuse to answer questions. They have somebody else signed up without asking questions. We don't support this rubber stamp process. Yeah, that's against our fiduciary responsibility. We are responsible for residents' assessment. We watch their money, okay? And also, when resident Sue kicked me out, I was not counted as yes, no, or abstain. I couldn't even comment on issues and concerns. There is no silent status, and I was forced in that state. This is illegal to put board members in a silent state to avoid his comment, okay? And there are often talks about board discussion based on fears and suspicions, okay? And as far as social media, we talk a lot about fears and suspicions. There is no evidence. There is no fact. The board cannot make decisions based on fear and suspicions. They need to be based on evidence and fact. If without evidence and fact, it's called rumors, okay? I don't like the board committees, board members become a rumor center. VMS try to label next door as a rumor center. So we need to stay away from this rumor center. Let's bring out the facts and evidence. Give us the example of social media that we don't like. and what should we do about it, rather than just fears about that could be this one, could be that one, and that's not.
Time is up. Thank you very much. Your time is up.
Madam President, can I
Yes.
can I comment on the UV light in the
Sure.
community center? I'm the chair of the M&C committee, so I'm a bit in the know on some of these things. There are three forms of ways of basically stopping bugs or viruses or bacteria and what have you. There's the UV light technology, there's an oxidation technology, and there's HEPA filters. The HEPA filters right now we do not have. Oxidation right now is now being sort of like pseudo indicated to possibly not work as well as it should. And UV lights have been used for about 20 years. My understanding is that the community center has regular filtration, not HEPA filters, and UV lights. When they did the installation a number of years ago, like 2 or 3 years ago, they upgraded it. That was my understanding. So at this particular point in time, if it does contain the UV lights, it does have a means of killing viruses. And that's one of the things that's available to us. The only thing right now is, okay, the HEPA filter technology is the best, but the HEPA filter technology causes other problems. So I just want to let everybody know the community center is somewhat safe if it does have the UV lights. That's it.
Thank you very much.
And that's
we will,
exactly
what
we heard.
Andre, you have not been called on. Please put your hand up or whatever you need to do. The meeting will be recessed, and we will return at 12:45. I believe everybody has taken the harassment training. If you have not taken the harassment training, you need to do that. Start it right now.
I have my hands up.
I send it
Okay, everybody has sent theirs. I've seen it, except for Manuel and Brian.
Okay.
I have not seen your.
Okay, I've seen it up to page 156, then it disappeared from there. I asked you the question. I don't know what happened.
All right, we're done for now. Recess.
I raised my hand.
Come back. Thank you very much. I'm done.